Example 2. Very similar to the previous one, we're going to square both sides, and that process should feel like second nature at this point. What's probably still going to be a bit challenging is that on the left here, squaring that binomial means that I'm taking x minus 3 and multiplying it by itself. In other words, I am setting up a FOIL problem on the left-hand side of this equation. On the right, that radical and the square root, the square and the square root are going to cancel like they did previously. So setting up the FOIL process here, keep in mind this is just an acronym to organize our work. The first term on the left is x, the first term on the right is x, and an x times x is an x squared. So this is going to feel very deja vu. The outside terms are x and a negative 3. X times negative 3 is a negative 3x. The inside terms will also give us a negative 3x. And if you notice there's a pattern there, feel free to use it. Last but not least, we get our negative 3 times negative 3. We want to be careful with signs here, and negative times a negative is a positive. So our last term will be a positive 9. So that's our FOIL process. We did that last time. Coming down just a bit, combining our like terms, we have the minus 3x and the minus 3x in the middle. So that'll give us an x squared minus 6x plus 9. So we have yet another quadratic, our sixth lovely quadratic of the section. So in order to solve this quadratic, the previous 5 examples I did with factoring, I'm going to go ahead and do one with quadratic formula just to remind you that it is an option for solving quadratics. However, like with factoring, I need standard form. So I'm going to add an x to both sides and also subtract a 45. I'm doing this in order to get that 0 on the right-hand side. We need to have that 0 on the right-hand side in order to use either factoring or quadratic formula. If you really want to be a glutton for punishment and complete the square, raise your hand. We can walk through that process too. It has certainly been a while since we completed the square. 6x, negative 6x plus x gives us a negative 5x. 9 minus 45 is a negative 36. And on the right, we have a 0. So the quadratic formula, in order to use it, it's helpful to take a second and label your coefficients. That x squared is a 1x squared. Our b is a negative 5. And our c is a negative 36. So this is an alternative to factoring. It is certainly one that you are welcome to use if you can't think of two numbers that multiply to something and add to something else. And it goes a little something like this. X is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, I'll never do that again. Substituting in our values, we are going to get the opposite of b. Well, b is already negative, so the opposite of b will make it positive. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Minus that 4 times a is just 1. And then a c. c is a negative 36. All of that will be divided by 2a. Of course, a is still just 1, so we're really just going to be dividing by 2 when we go to simplify. When we go to simplify underneath that radical, the negative 4 times a negative 36 will give us 144. So we have 5 plus and minus 25 plus 144 is 169. I'm going to go ahead and put that in red to show what's changing. All of this is divided by 2. And the square root of 109, that's going to be a 13. So keep in mind your calculator can do quite a bit of this work for you. If you're interested in seeing what your calculator is capable of, let me know, raise a hand. We can walk through the steps of doing this on the calculator. But this is going to give us two different values for x. One where x is 5 plus 13 over 2, and one where x is 5 minus 13 over 2. Again, your calculator can simplify both of those fractions, or you can do this mentally. 5 plus 13 is 18, divided by 2 will give you 9. Likewise, 5 minus 13 is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 will be negative 4. So these are the two possible values for x. I'm saying possible values because we know at this point one of these might be extraneous, maybe they're both extraneous, maybe they both work. So let's go ahead and substitute them back in. Keep in mind when I substitute them in, I'm not expecting to get back x, but rather I'm expecting to get back x minus 3. So if I substitute in the 9, I'm expecting to get back a 6. When I substitute in the negative 4, I'm expecting to get back a negative 7. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll start with the 9. So when I go to substitute, here we go, 45 minus 9. Square root of 45 minus 9 is going to give me a 6. Keep in mind that is what we expected. I expected x minus 3. So when x is 9, 9 minus 3 is 6. That is exactly what I wanted. The 9 works out. Let's see what happens with that negative 4. Same substitution, replacing that 9 with a negative 4. What I'm expecting to get back, though, will be negative 4 minus 3, or a negative 7. Instead, I got back a positive 7. Negative 7 and positive 7 are not the same number. So this negative 4 is extraneous. The next two examples will show to take care of if we have some extra terms to move around in addition to the FOIL. And we'll go back to factoring for those two methods. So if this video got a little intense with the quadratic formula, feel free to jump into the next two. We'll keep factoring from here on out. I just wanted everybody to see that there are other ways, and if you're comfortable doing other methods, please feel free. Let me know if you need anything.